Well, another force which I think is very strongly operative in this country is the force of what may be called over-organization. As technology becomes more and more complicated, it becomes necessary to have more and more elaborate organizations, more hierarchical organizations. And incidentally, the advance of technology has been accompanied by an advance in the science of organization. It's now possible to make organizations on a larger scale than was ever possible before. And so that you have more and more people living their lives out as subordinates in these hierarchical systems controlled by bureaucracies, either the bureaucracies of big business or the bureaucracies of big government.
Mm-hmm. Okay, yes. We are bored. We're all bored now. But has it ever occurred to you, Wally, that the process that creates this boredom that we see in the world now may very well be a self-perpetuating, unconscious form of brainwashing created by a world totalitarian government based on money, and that all of this is much more dangerous than one thinks, and it's not just a question of individual survival, Wally, but that somebody who's bored is asleep, and somebody who's asleep will not say no? See, I keep meeting these people. I mean, just a few days ago, I met this man whom I greatly admire. He's a Swedish physicist, Gustav Bjornstrand, and he told me that he no longer watches television, he doesn't read newspapers, and he doesn't read magazines. He's completely cut them out of his life because he really does feel that we're living in some kind of Orwellian nightmare now, and that everything that you hear now contributes to turning you into a robot. When I was at Findhorn, I met this extraordinary English tree expert who had devoted his life to saving trees. He just got back from Washington, lobbying to save the redwoods. He's 84 years old, and he always travels with a backpack because he never knows where he's going to be tomorrow. And when I met him at Findhorn, he said to me, "Where are you from?" And I said, "New York." He said, "New York, yes, that's a very interesting place. Do you know a lot of New Yorkers who keep talking about the fact that they want to leave but never do?" And I said, "Oh, yes." And he said, "Why do you think they don't leave?" I gave him different banal theories. He said, "Oh, I don't think it's that way at all." He said, "I think that New York is the new model for the new concentration camp, where the camp has been built by the inmates themselves, and the inmates are the guards, and they have this pride in this thing they've built. They've built their own prison, and so they exist in a state of schizophrenia, where they are both guards and prisoners, and as a result, they no longer have, having been lobotomized, the capacity to leave the prison they've made, or to even see it as a prison."
And we're told, no, we're unimportant, we're peripheral, get a degree, get a job, get a this, get a that, and then you're a player. You don't even want to play in that game. And if you're worrying about Michael Jackson or Bill Clinton or somebody else, then you are disempowered. You're giving it all away to icons. Icons which are maintained by an electronic media, so that you want to dress like X or have lips like Y or something. This is shit-brained, this kind of thinking. That is all cultural diversion. And what is real is you and your friends and your associations, your highs. You want to reclaim your mind and get it out of the hands of the cultural engineers who want to turn you into a half-baked moron consuming all this trash.
Quite seriously, is freedom necessary?
As far as I'm concerned, it is, yes.
Why? Is it necessary for a productive society?
Yes, I should say it is. I mean, a genuinely productive society. I mean, I think you could produce plenty of goods without much freedom. But I think the whole sort of creative life of man is ultimately impossible without a considerable measure of individual freedom, that initiative, creation, all these things which we value, and I think value properly, are impossible without a large measure of freedom.
I agree with Thomas Jefferson, who said you must have a revolution every generation. The American system has been betrayed. I mean, I think America is a pretty good idea, but weasels have learned how to subvert it, mostly because the people who wrote the American Constitution had no concept of modern mass media. We are not playing on a level playing field. If we were playing on a level playing field, we could solve some of these problems, but the manipulation of information is incredible, and the subtle way in which energy is bled off. I mean, look at what we've been talking about the last 6 months in the United States. How many million words on the Menendez trial? How many million words on the Bobbitts? How many million words on this stupid skating trip? These are the things that have been going on in the American mind. Meanwhile, the planet is dying. Malaria rages, AIDS rages. I mean, we're infantile beyond belief. I mean, the stupidity of the American media and the obsessions that are tolerated. And even intelligent people must tell you their opinion about these things. I mean, who gives a flying fuck about Tonya Harding one way or the other? It should never be mentioned among intelligent people. We don't give a hoot. But because this trivialization of information is endemic, and it makes us, there is a phenomenon going on called, which, you know, it can be called many things, but I call it neoteny. Do you know what neoteny is? Neoteny is the preservation of juvenile characteristics into adulthood. Well, we are in an environment, an informational environment of such poverty that we can't become adults. We're kept in a state of perpetual infantilism, worrying about skaters, child molesters, and all this other malarkey that doesn't amount to anything. While the people who are, you know, don't give a hoot about the Menendez brothers are dealing the human race down the drain. And, you know, television. We all know that the average television program is gauged to the 15-year-old mind, but what are the consequences of that? We're creating a population of people who are infantile and idiotic, and yet we call ourselves a democracy. You only have to study democracy 10 minutes. I mean, read John Stuart Mill to understand that the precondition for democracy is a sophisticated and educated citizenry. If you have one person, one vote, but no educated citizenry, then you have a mob being led by various icons and images manipulated by fascists. It's a very disturbing situation.
The danger, it seems to me, in a democracy is this. I mean, what does a democracy depend on? A democracy depends on the individual voter making an intelligent and rational choice for what he regards as his enlightened self-interest in any given circumstance. But what these people are doing, I mean, what both for their particular purposes, for selling goods, and the dictatorial propagandists are doing, is to try to bypass the rational side of man and to appeal directly to these unconscious forces below the surface, so that you are, in a way, making nonsense of the whole democratic procedure, which is based on conscious choice on rational grounds.
So I point all this out because in talking about my new book, somebody said that I had gone too far. And I was amused because it implied, from what? You know? It's not like there is a King's X where graybeards in white coats tend the sacred vestal fires of reality. There is no reality. There are only people who know this and people who don't know this and are therefore being manipulated by the people who do know it. This is true.
See, actually, for 2 or 3 years now, Chiquita and I have had this very unpleasant feeling that we really should get out. And we really should feel like Jews in Germany in the late 30s. Get out of here. Of course, the problem is where to go, because it seems quite obvious that the whole world is going in the same direction. See, I think it's quite possible that the 1960s represented the last burst of the human being before he was extinguished, and that this is the beginning of the rest of the future now, that from now on there'll simply be all these robots walking around, feeling nothing, thinking nothing, and there'll be nobody left almost to remind them that there once was a species called a human being. with feelings and thoughts, and that history and memory are right now being erased, and soon nobody will really remember that life existed on the planet.